Alright, let's do this one last time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ASMR review show. For those of you that are still here and have not unfollowed me after the previous two videos, I thought, well, let's round out the categories of media that I'm into and I like to post videos on with my unpopular video game opinions, just to make sure I've fully cleared out all the people who are, not wanting to follow me because I said things that they don't agree with. Because that's how it is these days. And once again, this isn't like I'm so original. No one gets me. I'm so unique. It's not meant in that way. It's more just, there's a lot of thoughts I have on video games and movies and music that are ones where I'm always kind of having to be like, no, I actually really think this. And I thought that'd be a fun topic to get some dialogue going. And, then maybe I could see if people actually agree with me on this, or maybe, if other people have fun things they'd like to share. So let's just get into it then. These are my unpopular video game opinions. So, I don't think I have anything that's crazy controversial, so I'm gonna start. I have a few that are related to video game franchises. The first one being, when it comes to the Jak and Daxter games, I like Jak 3 the most. And I never realized that was the not popular opinion until many years later. But I see a lot of people talk about how Jak 2 was the best one, and that Jak 3 is not that great of a game because its story is quite messy and has lots of plot holes and stuff that doesn't make sense. And keep in mind, I haven't played these games in quite a while, since the PS2 era. So perhaps if I were to replay them, I would feel differently about it. But also, that game, Jak 3, has a lot of nostalgic memory for me. I had a lot of fun with it growing up, so I really like that game a lot. And I also really like that Jak X Combat Racing, the racing spin-off game they did. One of the main reasons is because it has lots of Queens of the Stone Age in the intro cinematic. That's always a real badass way to start a video game, is with Queens of the Stone Age. And I had a lot of nostalgia for that game as well. So I know those are ones that people like to, they're not the biggest fan of, but for me, I really like them a lot. I've had a lot of fun times with them. Next up is, my favorite video game franchise is the Dead Space games, and I still really like Dead Space 3 a lot. It is my least favorite out of the main three, obviously, and yes, there are a lot of things I dislike in that game. I did a 4.5-hour video talking about it, but there is a lot to like in that game for me, and ultimately I still enjoy playing it. There are the frustrating things, but I know some people, when it came to Dead Space 3, they were like, oh, co-op, online, microtransactions, it looks like Lost Planet, just nope, that's it, I'm done. And for me, I still played it, and I still really enjoyed it, and I liked the story, the way it went. For the most part, there were some things I did not like about the story, forced love triangle and all that. But, I'm not one of those people that, writes off, Dead Space 1, Dead Space 2, that's it. I still really enjoyed 3. And I'm hoping that the new remake for Dead Space 1 is pretty good. You know, gotta err on the side of caution with these sorts of things. I never want to pre-order games or get too much hype around them, because you could end up with something that is totally deserving of hype, like Sekiro, or you could have something that is totally not worth the hype, like Fallout 76, or, well, I guess I've heard they fixed Cyberpunk, or that it's better, but I haven't really been paying attention to the news in that game, so. But I really like Dead Space 3. For Mass Effect, Mass Effect is another one of my favorite video game franchises, and I have a couple things. I was trying to limit it to not talking about one series too much, but there were such a gold mine of things to talk about with Mass Effect. So the first big one that I didn't realize was a not popular opinion until the Legendary Edition came out, but my favorite Mass Effect game is Mass Effect 2. And I always thought that was the general consensus, but at least from the online discussion after the Legendary Edition came out, it seemed that most people were talking about how Mass Effect 2 was unnecessary, because you could take it out of the main plot and nothing really changes, the Reapers still show up anyways, or that the whole Lazarus project was just forced drama to give people a chance to redesign Shepard, or that everything was basically, it was just mommy and daddy issues, the video game, right? But then again, that's most people in real life, so, I'd say that's accurate. Yeah, so my favorite out of the trilogy is Mass Effect 2. And it's funny, though, because I love the trilogy. It's great. But every game in that trilogy has something about it that makes it the worst one, in some way or another. So, for me, I guess it's Mass Effect 2 does the most things right and the least things wrong. And that's why it's my favorite. Also, the suicide mission, man, come on, what a build-up, I think there's very few video games where they do such a good job of, establishing, this is what's going to happen, and this will be the final mission, and everything is all building up to this, and it all does successfully build up to that, and it is totally worth it in the end, and your choices and how you play the game, it does really matter. A lot of games try to have curveball stories, where's it gonna go, or what's gonna happen, right? If they throw in twists and stuff, and there's all that in this game, but really it's all about a flawless build up to that big battle, and it doesn't stray from that, so I just love that game so much. But then on the topic of Mass Effect 2, here's one that I know is unpopular, and it's because it was all everybody was talking about when the Legendary Edition came out. And that is that I don't care that they took out 2 butt shots of Miranda from Mass Effect 2 and 3. They said they were going to do that, and now it's just well, is the game still going to be the same? Yeah? Okay. Are they going to keep, literally every other butt shot of Miranda, which is quite gratuitous already, to say the least? Yeah. Are they, changing, so the outfit is less revealing? No. Okay, so what's the big deal then? We're taking out, 2 camera shots? But of course, the internet being the internet, just, this game is ruined, and I don't know. I didn't care. It's still the same game. It still all plays the same, and the story's the same, and everything like that. Come on. Some of the butt shots, specifically the 2 they changed, were quite distracting. Though the Mass Effect 3 one, I mean, it was kind of funny. My father's looking for something big. Next shot, just boom. Right. Yeah. those games. They were made at a different time, you know. But like, there's still so many shots of her rear end throughout that game, and so you have plenty of that. You have photo mode now, so if you want, you could just literally pause the game and go look up close. And the funny thing is that there's another camera shot they changed, but nobody complained about it because they didn't post this in an article months before the game actually came out. And that is I am like very certain that they changed the camera angle when Matriarch Benezia first shows up in Mass Effect 1. Because, you know, Matriarchs, they're, as Legion would say, they're a little top-heavy, you know. And I remember very vividly in Mass Effect 1, which I played the PS3 version of that game just before the Legendary Edition came out. When she first shows up, the camera really lingers, you know, like it's Eve from Metal Gear Solid 3. And in the Legendary Edition, it kind of like gives you half a second, and then it's like, alright, hello, my eyes are up here. I didn't see videos talking about how the woke agenda ruined Mass Effect because of that, because nobody noticed and nobody talked about it months before the game came out. Yeah, that's a separate thing. I hate all this videos. This movie that hasn't even come out yet is already gonna suck. Based on this random article I heard that one of the producers said in an interview that this thing about a trailer, and I just don't care. Let me just watch or play or listen to whatever the thing is, and I'll judge it for myself. So there you go. I'm not stepping in line to be another guy complaining about why there's no butt shot in this game. I really couldn't care less. And then another Mass Effect unpopular opinion is it's on the topic of Mass Effect Andromeda. So, that game, I don't hate it, and it is still enjoyable, but it is my least favorite out of the 4 main games. But the least thing wrong with it is the facial animations. That's my opinion on that. Everyone was complaining about the facial animations are bad, they look unrealistic, and oh, it ruins it, and, you know, sorry, my face is tired from, you know, that meme. And I'm not going to say that they were actually good, no, but to me, the issues I had with Mass Effect Andromeda were all things that were not the facial animations. Like, that was the least wrong thing with that game for me. And it annoys me that, like, most of the time that was spent updating the game was purely to do with, you know, fixing facial animations and stuff. I'm like, well, I think they were fixing some bugs, but more time should have gone to fixing the bugs or developing story DLC, like the whole Quarian arc rumored DLC. And there is this new Mass Effect coming out, which may be set after the original trilogy, but it's still in the Milky Way. And I'm still kind of let down that it's been 5 years now, and we still have, like, next to no clue on whether or not we're going to find out what happened to the Andromeda crew. Because I still would like to see where that story went. I mean, it's very obvious they were setting up for sequels with unfinished threads and stuff like that, and I'm okay with that. The original Mass Effect by itself is actually not purely great of a story. There were so many concepts and ideas that were sort of just there for the sake of lore, and it wasn't until these other games that we got more development on Quarians and the Geth and the Genophage and all this stuff, right? So it would have been nice to see more of it, and the facial animations was like the least bothersome thing about that game. So while everyone was memeing on those animations being bad, I was just like, well, no, I think there's more substantial things to criticize, and there are videos that detail all of that and go into depths on the story and characters. But, you know, the main thing that everyone talked about was the facial animations, and to me, that was my least annoying thing about that game. Now, another franchise we can talk about is Dark Souls. And my big unpopular opinion on that is I like Dark Souls 3 more than Dark Souls 1. And I know most people would say the opposite if they had to rank the games. Because Dark Souls 1, while it is flawed, people prefer the flawed original game to the game that is mostly fan service and references and callbacks. But to me, I liked that about Dark Souls 3 because it felt like it was a greatest hits album from a band that was mostly about hit singles and not really deep cuts. So to take all these elements from the previous games but then refine them and give them more polish and then put it together into one big package, yeah, I really liked Dark Souls 3 for that. And like, there's less annoying areas. The Anor Londo archers are not nearly as torturous. The poison swamp isn't nearly as bad. I did not hate Farron Keep nearly as much of the experience of Blighttown and the Depths. I actually really liked the oppressive, grim, dark atmosphere of Irithyll Dungeon and the Profaned Capital. Some of the side areas, like, the Scorching Lake, which is like, you know, Ash Lake combined with Demon Ruins. I really liked that area a lot. There's a random centipede dune worm that has lightning. That's pretty cool. And the DLCs were so fantastic for that game. Like, I'm sorry, but I'll take Ringed City over Artorias of the Abyss. Again, I know, unpopular opinion, but that's what y'all are here for. And another franchise I have a few opinions on is The Witcher. So, let's get the big one out of the way first. I picked Triss over Yen in The Witcher 3. And I understand why people prefer Yen, and I know that if you play the other games, that Triss is a lot more manipulative in trying to make sure Geralt doesn't find his memory and realize he's been with Yen for the whole time. I understand all that, and I know Yen and Ciri and Geralt is much more of the family aspect to it. But hear me out. Triss is a dorky redhead who gets way too drunk at parties. That's like everything I'm into in a person, you know. That's just my style. That's what I like. That's like what I'm attracted to. Is nerdy, dorky redheads. Not dark-haired women who can be a little too controlling. That's nice, but it's not really for me, you know. So, and it was funny because playing through, I was like really into Yen. I was like, oh wow, you know, smexy witches, all right, yeah. And then I was like, who's this Triss person? They're gonna make me hang out with her. And they're like, no, Geralt, I need you to go hang out with this person and do a mission. But whatever you do, even though I know she's really attractive, do not do anything with her. And I would just be like, of course. Feel like playing cards, Gwen specifically. And then I'd go and meet this Triss person. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they were warning me about. Yeah, so I picked Triss over Yen. I know that's not the correct answer, and that Reddit would roast me alive if they got a hold of this video, but that's how it is. Maybe if I play that game again, I'll pick Yen, and maybe I'll change my mind. Or maybe I won't. So, you know, don't bother advocating for reasons why Yen is better than Triss. I've read all the arguments, I know all the statements, I understand the sentiment. I did not choose Yen. And then my other unpopular opinion on The Witcher is I do not think a new person to the franchise should just simply jump into Witcher 3 knowing nothing whatsoever about the series and play the game without knowing anything, because that's what I did, and I was very confused and wasn't following along, and I was not enjoying the experience. It wasn't until I went and watched some recap videos and like read up on the story and maybe got a little more info on the way the combat and the potions and all that works, then I tried it again, and then I was much more into that experience. And I mean, it is a good thing. I like that this was a sequel that didn't pander to newcomers by, like, forcing in a new character to be like, hey, I wasn't here on this adventure. Could somebody explain to me what happened? Like, sequels are under no obligation to do that. And this one doesn't really, and that's okay. And maybe if you're that into it, you'll be able to follow along. But for me, it was kind of like, as Yahtzee describes it, like, bringing your drunk girlfriend around at her high school reunion and watching her chit-chat with everybody while you just stand there kind of, watching the clock and stuff like that. So, yeah. And the reason I say it's unpopular is, like, the entire internet and people I know who have played Witcher 3, I was like, is it okay if I just jump into Witcher 3? Like, the first one's PC only. I've heard the second one's kind of a mixed bag, but I've heard the third one is so good. Should I just jump into it? And they were all like, oh yeah, absolutely. You don't need to know a single thing. You could go in completely blind. And it was not a good experience for me. So I don't say that to people, but I know it's unpopular. The next franchise is Bioshock, which I am quite a fan of Bioshock. But the main thing is kind of a weird thing. So I actually really enjoyed Bioshock 2, which I know a lot of people didn't really like. But then the weird thing is I know people who hated Bioshock 2 really loved the Minerva's Den DLC, and they labeled it as like one of the best DLCs of all time. So I liked Bioshock 2, and I played Minerva's Den, and I thought, yeah, it was pretty good. Like, I guess because I had enjoyed Bioshock 2 and its gameplay, the fact that we got a DLC that was just more of that gameplay but with a different story wasn't as mind-blowing for me. And I was kind of wondering, like, why did people love that DLC so much when they didn't like the main game? I'm guessing it's because they just liked the story more. The whole, like, thinker, rapture, central computer, and, what's his name? Porter. It's voiced by Carl Lumbly, great actor. And they didn't have to deal with that very pressing, I'm Eleanor, and I'm just so posh, right? Maybe that's why. So I guess my unpopular thing is to say, like, yeah, Minerva's Den's a great DLC, and it's very good, but I didn't think it was, like, a masterpiece compared to the main game. Like, it was more of the game, and that's what it should be. I don't know, I guess I wasn't, like, blown away by it. I just thought, like, yeah, it was real good. Let's just throw this one in there randomly. It's a very small thing, but I like motion blur. I know that's a thing when people are talking about video game settings and everything. They tell you, oh, turn off motion blur. Oh, no, can't stand motion blur. Oh, it looks horrible. And I'm like, I've tried it without motion blur, and I don't like it. Because I can't stand, like, screen tearing or anything like that. Like, screen tearing for me is more immersive breaking than motion blur. So if motion blur means that it blurs the background when you're turning around, and then you don't get screen tearing, and it helps with that, like, I'll take that, and it's kind of how it would look to an extent in real life. So I like motion blur, and that's because I can't stand screen tearing. Now the next thing, it's basically a long list of video games that are very, very popular, and everybody loves them, and I have tried, and I just can't get into it. It's just not my thing. There's actually a lot of them, surprisingly. And maybe this is gonna like revoke my gamer status. And I'm not saying that I think any of these that I'm gonna list are bad. It's stuff that it doesn't appeal to me. I don't get enjoyment out of it. It's not fun. It's just not my style, And really, if I'm not into it, then I'm taking my free time to play video games. Why would I do it for something I don't want to do, right? And maybe in time my opinion on these might change. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna like Dark Souls, because I didn't realize I was into BDSM, apparently. And I didn't think I was gonna like The Witcher 3, because I originally played it and I didn't care for it. A lot of games like that I just didn't realize, and now some of them are my favorites. So let's just go through it. I was never much of a Nintendo person. Growing up, I was a PlayStation person, so I never really cared for Mario Party or Super Smash Bros. Anytime I was at a friend's place and they had oh, we're doing a Smash Bros tournament, I was just kind of like, oh, yay, I can't wait to smash random buttons together, and then watch as some character on the screen goes and then I go shooting into the horizon like Team Rocket's blasting off again. So I just never really got into those games, and Mario Kart's fun, but I'm not good at it. I was more into the Sony version, Crash Team Racing. I love watching videos on Skyrim. I never really got into it. I tried, and I admit it's a very well-made game, and there's lots of fun to be had with it, and when you mod it and stuff, it's great. I love watching Yamfa videos on like how to beat Skyrim without walking. Like, those videos are great, but me personally trying to play it, I don't know, I haven't really gotten into it. Not really my style. And then another thing, it's just the general genre of online competitive video games, specifically first-person shooter games. Apart from Rainbow Six Siege, which I have not played in years, I haven't really been into that genre. Like, I played the Call of Duty games back when they had like a really good single-player campaign and a good story, or like the split-screen co-op stuff like the Zombies or the Spec Ops in Modern Warfare games, like the Spec Ops in Modern Warfare 2. Oh, all 69 stars, man. I've done it. But once they stopped focusing on the stories, and they just became very like over the top and cringy, and they focused on the multiplayer, and then they just tried to make it like Fortnite, like, oh, Fortnite did Battle Royale, everyone's gotta do Battle Royale. That's not really my thing. And again, like, you'd have people, we'd get in a group, we'd be like, yeah, we're gonna play like Call of Duty online multiplayer, and I'd go in and I'd be like, oh, there's a guy, he one-shot me with a 50 cal. Oh, there's another guy, I lit him up with like 50 bullets of my assault rifle, and then he turned around and used those dual shotties that are so overpowered. It's just, I don't like it. It's never been fun for me, so I never really got into that genre. That's a big gamer thing, is the big hot shooters. No, this is the new shooter, battle royale games, and no, the only one that really clicked with me for a bit was Rainbow Six Siege, because that one, there was a lot more than just simply being good at pointing and clicking. until the enemy died. There was a lot of strategy in what character am I going to use to counter this character. There was a lot more communication and teamwork, so it was very fun to play with friends. It could get very intense and very crazy. So for a while when I was playing Siege, that was really the only online competitive multiplayer game that I played. And then on the topic of online games, never really cared for MMOs, Warcraft, and all that stuff. MMOs has never been my thing, and everyone was into it, and I just never bothered, you know. Again, they've got their fans. I know, I mean, everyone hates Blizzard for, reasons. But no, never really been my scene. And then another game which I love watching videos on, but I never enjoyed playing it, was GTA, specifically GTA 5. I loved watching, like, Achievement Hunter do, like, their heists, and that stuff would go wrong, and then how to roll with it. Like, those are hilarious videos. I loved watching those, but then actually playing it, it'd be like, right, I'm gonna play with my friends, and they've all been playing the game for like a year, so they're like level 50, and they've got like, all these assault rifles and these fancy high-speed Ferraris, and I've only played the game a little bit, so I've got like a little squeaky pistol, and I've got a PT Cruiser. Just wasn't enjoyable, or, I don't know, it wasn't fun. Or like I'd try doing some missions, and it'd be like, right, you gotta kill this guy in a car, and I'd miss him, and then I'd get stuck in traffic, and next thing I know, he'd be on the other side of the island, and I'd be like, how am I supposed to get there when he's going the other way? Like, oh. Again, none of those are bad games. It's just not really my style, Then another sort of general thing is it's the topic of difficulty selection. So it's a bit of an odd thing, my thoughts on it, because I do think it's very silly when, like, the next FromSoft game comes out, and there's inevitably all the articles about how these guys need to respect their gamers and put in an easy mode. Because, like, the point of those games is that they're designed to be a big challenging experience. Like, that's how it is. Also, Sekiro does have an easy mode, and it's the default difficulty because you can turn on hard mode by ringing the bell and then giving away Kuro's Charm in New Game Plus. But also, if the game does have a difficulty select option, I'm not gonna hate on someone if they played it through on, like, the narrative, easy story difficulty. Like, I used to do that a lot because I wasn't really into the challenge that much. And now I kind of try to bump it up to normal mode or hard mode on video games sometimes. But if it's a game where I'm not really familiar with, like, the style and the combat, typically I'll play it on normal difficulty because it is the normal way to play normal, not the easy way to play normal. Normal is normal. Again, I'll bump it up a couple times for some games, or if it's too easy, like once I got the hang of Witcher 3, I bumped up the difficulty to hard mode, and then that was a lot more of a good balance, I think. So yeah, if a game has a difficulty select and you choose to play it on easy mode, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, some people are not that skilled at the technicality of those games, but if they really want to play the story to them, then I see nothing wrong with that. But then, though, on the topic of difficulty, there is a game that I have to argue in the case for difficulty, and that's Alien Isolation. I love that game is so brutally difficult and relentless, and I love that you die a lot in that game, and I love how lengthy of a game it is and how it keeps throwing more and more curveballs at you, because that's tension and that's horror. It's meant to be oppressive, and you're meant to feel like this alien is an unstoppable beast that you can barely make a dent on. Like, if the game was too easy, then the alien wouldn't be scary. And I know that if you're not really into that game and you're just trying to speed through it for like views on Twitch or whatever, then that game is a very anti-let's play game, because it's got so many boring, slow stretches, and it's not one you can just skim through unless you really know what you're doing. So yeah, I think that you should play Alien Isolation on hard mode if you want the recommended experience. And then I guess the last thing we can get into here is its video games that I like that most people didn't like, or parts of games that I like that a lot of people don't like. So the first one is it's the Uncharted franchise. And there's that bit in Uncharted 3 where you're like wandering through the desert for a while. I love that bit. That's such a cool, nice blending of gameplay and story, which is what the Uncharted franchise does so well. The fact that you just kind of wander around and you're not even sure what you're supposed to do, and you're like hallucinating, and there's all these cool moments to it. I like that. I like when video games do that. That it could have been a cutscene where Nathan Drake just walks around the desert for a minute and then comes across a city. But no, they really put you into that perspective, and I thought that was really cool. I think Uncharted 4 maybe went a little overboard with some of those segments, though, That's another thing we could throw in there. I do really like Uncharted 4. It is a very great game. But to quote that one guy, I think they may have gone too far in a few places. It's like when they were making Uncharted 4, they were like, what intro should we do? Should we do the Uncharted 2 in media res intro, where we show a scene from halfway through the game and then start at the beginning? Should we do the Uncharted 3 intro, where we flash back to when he was a kid and show one of his, early times he got a thirst for blood? Should we do the kind of intro where it's like his last mission that leads to his retirement? Should we do the whole, reboot intro where he's like old and out of the game and he has to slowly get back into the action? And the developers said, let's do all of them. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Uncharted 4, but man, it's like, again, they wanted to do every intro possible for that game. And it was a little much. But yeah, I still really like that game, though, don't get me wrong. Another game that a lot of people hated on, so much to the point that I didn't play this game until just last year, like 6 years after it came out, and that's The Last Guardian from Team Ico, who did Shadow of the Colossus, one of my favorite games. Yeah, I kind of heard that everybody really didn't like it, and that it was a badly designed game, and that the AI was bad, and so I just didn't play it, despite the fact that Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games. But I finally did. I finally played it, and I think it's a pretty good game. I didn't have as much of a problem with the AI as some people did. There were still definitely a few parts that were frustrating and not perfect. I think it could have been maybe a little better designed in that way, but also, like, that is part of the game, and the challenge is, like, learning to work with Trico and figuring out how to command him properly, and that he's not going to do everything perfectly. Like, it was more realistic in that way, so I liked that element to it. Honestly, I think the one thing I hated about the game was that if there's like a big action sequence and you stand still, your character won't stand still. The boy, he just kind of does like a little hoppity run in place thing, and that made it very frustrating when I was trying to do some platforming parts, and I was like, okay, hold still, I need to look around to figure out where to jump to next. And the combat element to it of like you commanding Trico to take down the weird statue armors was cool. But the whole fact that basically it boiled down to, spam all the buttons if you get caught, I didn't really like that element to it. But overall, it was still a really good game, and I won't spoil it in case you still haven't played it, but it really gets you in the heartstrings in the last few minutes in a way that I wasn't actually expecting it to do, but it did. So yeah. But of course, the number one game that a lot of people hate, that I loved, like, not Last Guardian where I liked it, this game I loved, it's one of my all-time favorites. It's Death Stranding. This was a game, of course, I was hyped for, and then it came out and everyone's like, oh, it's just a walking simulator, you're playing a FedEx delivery guy, like, oh. And I remember my family bought it for me, like, as a Christmas gift the year it came out, and they told me that, like, they went to one place to buy it, and the guy that worked there was like, yeah, oh, this game's horrible, don't buy him this, oh, it's garbage. And then the next place they went to, the person was like, you've got to play this game, it's so good, amazing. And then it's funny because I started playing this game like the week that the whole pandemic became full scale. Like, it was so poignantly timed. I had also hoped that when I beat the game, it would be around the end of the pandemic. But yeah, I beat that game quite a while ago, and yet here we still are. Anyway, yeah, I really love Death Stranding. It's such a great game. It's a zen-like element to it. I love that it's, like, again, deliberately, slowly paced, right? There's no rushing through this game. There's no speeding through. It's got all those hilariously silly and over-the-top Kojima elements that he had in the Metal Gear games. Everything that was weird and silly about those games is still here in this one. I haven't played the director's cut version yet. I am interested in it, but also I'm not, because they took the Monster Energy out of that. That was a thing people hated. Oh, Monster Energy is so dumb. I was like, you drink Monster Energy? That's funny. Like, do y'all think that was meant to be serious? That, like, oh yeah, drinking Monster Energy is what saves you in the ghost apocalypse? Like, no, they were just having fun. And then they took it out of the director's cut. Damn it. I don't know if it was a licensing thing or a corporate thing, or if they were doing it because people complained, but now it's just a Bridges energy drink, and that's just not nearly as fun. Come on, you gotta wake up and, like, slam Monster Energies. Like, how great is that? Yeah, there were so many great things to that game. I, like, never wanted it to end. I spent so much time, like, leveling up all the areas and strengthening all the connections to max. I had such a great time with that game. And it's funny, I really regret not recording my footage to make a boss video, because I had heard the boss fights were kind of lame, and so I didn't think I'd have much to say. But then I played it and I loved it. So maybe when I get around to recording the director's cut version of the game, I might make a video on it. That would be a pretty fun thing to do. And this game has had such an impact on me that now anytime I'm carrying a bunch of bags, I have to do my best sort of, like, or then I say like, no, don't worry, I beat Death Stranding on hard difficulty, I got this. So yeah, I don't know, I know it's a love it or hate it kind of game, and a lot of big people on the internet didn't like it, and I loved it. It was really great, real great. Anyway, that's about all that I can think of off the top of my head, and what I wrote down for like unpopular video game opinions. I'm sure there's plenty of things that some people disagree with, and maybe you guys have a few more of your own thoughts on what you'd like to say, and stuff you felt was unpopular. So if you managed to make it through all 3 of these videos, I'd like to hear what y'all have to say on this, because it's a fun thing. We gotta talk about that, and maybe we find out we've got more in common than we think, or maybe we realize we're more different than we think, but that's okay, right? It's not like we're saying something real edgy, like Firefly deserved to be canceled or something like that. I have never watched Firefly. I don't know anything about it. Just don't at me on that one. But yeah, that's about that. So, Elden Ring. When's Elden Ring coming out? Let's play Elden Ring. Are we all hyped for it? I'm hyped for it. Can't wait. Anyway, yeah, that's about all I got. So, maybe if I figure out more, I'd like a second one. If people want that. We'll see. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed that. Hope that you're not going to crucify me on a cross of fire for what I decided that I feel my unbiased opinion towards these things is. And I might catch you next time. So in any case, have a good night.